since you said that the Israelis came and asked for a ceasefire in June 2025, do you think that it was a mistake that Iran agreed to the ceasefire in June?
No, back then the Iranians had two considerations. One is that they did teach the Israeli regime a lesson. That's why the Israeli regime was seeking a ceasefire. They didn't accept the ceasefire right away. They continued hitting for 3 days roughly, and then accepted a halt in hostilities. But the Iranians knew that ultimately this is going to be a war that includes the United States. And if that war had continued, the United States would have entered the fray. And Iran saw its weaknesses during that 12-day war. And so over the last 8 months, they've been making major changes with regards to their launching capabilities, with regards to protecting their factories, their missile and drone factories, with regards to protecting civil society or their military bases. So they learned to spread things out. So a lot of what the Americans have been doing and the Israeli regime is that they've been bombing a lot of empty buildings because they've been evacuated. They've planned for this major America. The Israeli regime is not a threat to Iran. Iran can easily defeat it. For Iran, the issue is the United States. The United States is the superpower. So over the last 8 months, Iran has been preparing itself for this war. Iran knew it was inevitable. So the 12-day war was a victory for Iran, but they were interested in stopping it after the Israeli regime recognized that it was being defeated. And then it immediately went to work to prepare itself for something much bigger.
You also referred to Iran's allies in Yemen and in Iraq, who have also joined this war. And in Lebanon, Israel is continuing its ground invasion as well as aerial attacks in Lebanon, where it's fighting Hezbollah. But Houthis are not seen in the scene. I saw many people asking this question: where are the Houthis? How do you explain this?
Well, Iran and its allies are controlling the pace of escalation. In Iraq, Iran's allies can do much more than what we're seeing right now. Even in Syria, Iran's allies who are not in power, but they still exist, can do a lot right now that they're not doing. This is a war, as I said earlier, that from the very beginning, the expectation was that this war could last for a very long period. So there's no reason for Iran to go all out on day one. If Iran wanted to do that, Iran could have destroyed all the tankers in the Persian Gulf. It could have destroyed all the oil and gas installations, and there would be no more oil and gas from the Persian Gulf for the next few years. And that would destroy the global economy. It would destroy the global economy. It would change the lives of everyone across the globe. It would create mass suffering. But Iran doesn't want that. Iran wants this war to be managed and to defeat the Americans, to defeat the Zionist regime, to put them in their place, to tell them, to make them recognize that the era of Western dominance is over, but it does not want to create a global economic catastrophe. I mean, look at the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has effectively it's shut down. The Americans can do nothing about it. Iran can go much further than that. They can just destroy the tankers that are stuck. Why doesn't it do it? It wants this to end with changes, fundamental so that Iran's future security is ensured, so that the United States 6 months down the road or 1 year down the road doesn't start another war. That's what it wants. But it doesn't want destruction. The side that has brought about this crisis is the United States, the Israeli regime, and the Zionist lobby. They are the ones who are putting the Indian economy at risk, the Chinese economy at risk, the US economy at risk, the global economy at risk for the sake of the Israeli regime. Because the Israeli regime does not care about any entity but itself. But on the other hand, we do not want the global economy to collapse. So this escalation is managed. When the time comes, Iran's allies in Yemen will be more active. Iran's allies in Iraq will be more active. Iran itself will be more active.
So what are the end games that you are imagining? I mean, of course, this war cannot go on forever. Iran has so far maintained that I was following the statements issued by Iran's leaders, whether it is the parliament speaker or the National Security Council chief or IRGC statements, and they all have ruled out talks with the United States, or they have ruled out ceasefire as well. I mean, I saw immediately after Trump told the Atlantic magazine that the Iranians had reached out for talks, Ali Larijani had immediately responded saying that we are not going to talk to the Americans. So my question is that, I mean, of course, in India also we are feeling the heat because there is now a shortage for cooking gas. You can see long queues at the petrol pumps, even in the city where I am in the southern city. So if the war continues, everybody is going to suffer. So war cannot continue forever. So what is the end game scenario that you have in mind from an Iranian point of view?
Well, as I said earlier, Iran wants the global economy to function normally. This is not a war that we started. This is an unprovoked war of aggression where they murdered our leaders and they murdered citizens, including many children, and they never showed remorse for even murdering little girls. Feel threatened that 6 months down the road they're going to do it again. We already negotiated with the Americans twice, and as we were negotiating, they carried out an attack. They initiated war 8, 9 months ago, and now. So negotiating with them is useless because they'll say one thing and then the next day they'll do something different. They're not trustworthy in anywhere form. And this is their own doing. Otherwise, we negotiate with different countries. We negotiate with your government. We negotiate with neighbors and friends. And when you do a deal, when you sign a piece of paper, when you promise something, you do it. After that time frame ends, you may change. But during that period where you have an agreement, you abide by your agreement. Not like the United States, where suddenly you wake up in the morning in India and they impose new tariffs. But that aside, Iran not only cannot negotiate with them, Iran knows that the United States is in deep trouble. They're running out of ammunition. And the war is very costly at multiple levels, not just militarily, but the Persian Gulf region is their sphere of influence. Dubai and Doha and Kuwait City, all these entities, they are hemorrhaging in wealth. That wealth, a lot of it is American, or it is linked to the United States. When they sell their oil, they sell it in dollars. They purchase Western weapons. Well, they're not selling oil. How can they purchase them? They put their money in the American stock exchange. They're not selling oil. In future, these countries where the United States has invested so much in, they're not going to be the center of commerce and trade and investment anymore because they've been badly hit during this war. So the Iranians know that the Americans are paying a price, a very heavy price. And of course, the price of energy is increasing across the world. And people will blame the United States for this. So what Iran wants is that while it's putting pressure on the United States, it wants the region to recognize that it can no longer be used as a platform for aggression against Iran. It's easy. It's very easy. It's like a neighbor of India giving a base to a third party. Let's say they give bases to the United States, and the United States starts striking India from those bases. And then those countries or that country tells the Indian government that we're neutral. You can't be neutral. That's your country. That's your territory. That's your airspace that's being used. You're complicit. Iran wants to make sure that from now on, these regimes can no longer be complicit in aggression against Iran, and that the United States can no longer be in a position to threaten Iran. And Iran must be fully compensated. And its rights as a sovereign independent country to have a peaceful nuclear program must all be respected.